Hello you guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a new video. Welcome to my fall TBR. I have never filmed like an exclusive TBR video that I know of. Maybe I have back in the day, but I figured spooky season was the best time to film a whole dedicated TBR video because that's how personally I find my recs and how I curate the books that I want to read for certain seasonal TBRs is by other people's videos. So I thought it could be really fun to bring you guys along for mine. And I wanted to film this a little bit earlier so that you guys could kind of go into September with your fall TBR, but I was waiting for some library holds to come through. And now I have 9 of the 10 books. So I figured, you know what, let's just do it. And I am so excited. I want to put the disclaimer out there that I am definitely one of those people who considers horror and gothic fantasy cozy. So I know the title is probably like all the cozy books I want to read this fall, but yeah, that's my definition of cozy. I consider Halloween and Michael Myers and The Purge and Insidious cozy movies. So yeah. There's actually not a single romance book on this list. I feel like I've read every witchy romance that there is. I have a whole shelf over there of them, and I feel like I've read every single one. So this is mainly, I would say, mystery, literary fiction, fantasy, historical fiction, gothic, horror. It's kind of the vibe we're going for this TBR. I'm gonna take a sip of this tea. No, it's actually too hot, so we're gonna put that down. Anyways, I'm really excited to get into this. So half of the books are from the library and half of them are just books that I've thrifted over the last like year or two. I actually don't think there's a single new book on this list, which is actually kind of exciting. I obviously love going to the bookstore. I love asking for gift cards to go to the bookstore, but you guys know I really try my best to utilize the library now that we live in a small town and it's accessible to us, and also thrift and buy as many of my books secondhand as I can. One of the great things about our library system is that not a lot of people use it. I feel like I get each book for 3 weeks and then I can renew it for 3 additional times of 3 weeks. So I should be able to have all of these honestly until Halloween, just unless someone requests them. I feel like I'm really bad at explaining books, so I'm gonna do my best, but hopefully this maybe helps you decide what books you want to add to your TBR, or let me know if you have any books on your TBR down below and maybe I can add them to mine. I'm so excited. This also does not include any new releases that are coming out this fall. I included that in my last fall vlog, so if you missed that, go check it out. I run through all of the September kind of like spooky season releases. I really wish I could be like Reagan from Peruse Project because she is elite when it comes to explaining books with no spoilers, but I'm gonna try my best. First book, I feel like I'm gonna say the name wrong. I feel like everyone I've seen on TikTok talk about this book has this like beautiful Spanish pronunciation of it. So I'm really sorry if I don't get it right, but I came across this book last year actually. Someone had put together a list of diverse books to read in the fall and this was on it. It was published in 2021. Apparently gives similar vibes to Mexican Gothic, and the author has similar writing styles to Isabel Allende and also Celia Moreno Garcia. I've had this, I think I thrifted this like 6 months ago now, so I've been waiting and holding on to this book to read in the fall, and that is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. I really hope I'm saying that right. This book basically is a South American magical realism book that takes place in Ecuador and in the US. And like I said, it's kind of giving me similar vibes, at least to Mexican Gothic, which to me makes it like a good fall read. This is about the Montoya family and they are being summoned to receive their inheritance in Ecuador. Their matriarch Orquídea is on her deathbed and she has not left their home in Four Rivers, Ecuador in years, and no one really knows why. When they show up to her funeral or to go see her in Ecuador, they're kind of hoping for some answers as to kind of why certain secrets have been kept their whole life, but they don't end up finding out. And instead, basically they leave with more questions than they do answers. And then it says 7 years later, her gifts have manifested in different ways, granting them unexpected blessings, but soon a hidden figure begins to tear through the family tree, seeking to destroy their line. Determined to save their family and uncover the truth behind their inheritance, they travel to Ecuador, to the place where she buried her secrets and broken promises and never looked back. So I feel like this one kind of borders a fall read, but I'm hoping it's a little gothic and eerie and spooky. And if not, maybe just a good read. Then we have Sharp Objects. I didn't realize that this was her debut novel. Also, by the way, these are in no particular order. I'm just kind of grabbing them as I go. A lot of people I've talked to have said to just go into this blind as much as possible, not read any reviews. That's kind of my plan. This story follows Camille, and she is fresh from like staying at the psych ward in the psych hospital. And she gets an assignment to go back to her hometown because she is a reporter or like a journalist for a newspaper in Chicago. So she goes back to her hometown. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't have a great relationship with her family. She's going back to research and write about 2 girls that have gone missing in her hometown. From what I've heard, this kind of deals with her fighting her own demons, whether I think it's probably her family, and then also working on this case. This kind of gives me Karen Slaughter vibes, so I'm really excited to read it, and it is quite short too. I think it's less than 250 pages. So I feel like this is something I could kind of fly through on a weekend, cozy rainy day at home, like on a Saturday with a cup of tea. Just sounds perfect. So really excited to read this. Next 2 I don't have physical copies of yet. But first is Hollowed Heathens by Nicole Fiorina. I saw Heather Reeds talk about this. So technically I guess this is somewhat of a Gothic romance book, but I don't really have any contemporary romance is probably what I should have said. Weeping Hollow is a town hidden by magic that seems to be trapped by fall, a town ruled by 2 covens, curses, and betrayal. In this book, we follow our main character, Fallon, and she's returning to Weeping Hollow for the first time since she was a child, and she's coming to take care of her sick grandfather, and she's always kind of felt like an outsider, but when she returns back to her hometown that she was born to, she instantly feels like she belongs there. And here she meets Julian, who is one of the 4 Hollow Heathens, who is held under a curse and feared by the town. That's literally all I know about it. I've heard pretty polarizing reviews, like you either love it or you don't like it at all. So I'm really excited to see what it's about, and I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited as well. Next one is the book that everyone is talking about, Incidents Around the House. It was actually a book of the month pick maybe last month or a few months ago, so I picked it as my add-on this month, so I should have it shortly. I find it so hard to get scared by a horror book, but a lot of people who are saying that they don't get scared by horror books are getting scared by this one. And one of my favorite horror thriller TikTokers, Sydney, said that this one really freaked her out. So I'm really excited to read this. This book includes creepy kids, haunted happenings, family drama, spine-chilling scenes, and jaw-dropping moments. So sign me up, honestly. Okay, this book follows Bella, and Bella is an 8-year-old. She lives at home with her mom, her dad, and her grandmother, I believe. And one day she starts talking about Other Mother, who is basically this kind of like sinister entity, which we all know pretty common for kids to kind of talk to make-believe characters. And it does seem to be a pretty big like plot in a lot of horror movies, which I do find this kind of real life experience horror situation, kid talking to an invisible being, very scary. So I think this book might be pretty spooky. I guess Other Mother always asks her, can I go inside your heart? Terrifying events around the house start to suggest that Other Mother is getting tired of asking the same question over and over, and Bella realizes if she doesn't say yes soon, her family might be in serious danger. So just sounds perfect for spooky season. I love a good horror book. Next we have Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and I have been holding on to this book for so long. I am someone who I have realized I don't like reading a series unless they're complete, just because if I really love the first book, I want to jump into the second book, and then I want to jump into the third book. So I've been waiting for all the books to come out in this before I start it. And I believe the third book in this just came out in late August. So I was like, you know what? It's time. We can finally jump into this series. This is supposed to take place in like a very gothic, eerie manner. And this follows Signa, and she has been an orphan her whole life. Her grandmother passed away at a young age, and she's kind of been handed off to different family members who have all mysteriously died. It's kind of giving Lemony Snicket Series of Unfortunate Event energy, and I'm kind of here for that because it's one of my all-time favorite series. Family member she's living with currently died. Went off to live at Thorngrove with her eccentric family, the Hawthorns. I believe it's like her uncle or her great uncle that she sent off to live with. When she gets there, she realizes that her uncle is mourning his late wife, and his daughter is also suffering from the same illness that she did. Their mother's restless spirit appears claiming she was poisoned. Signa realizes that the family she depends on could be in grave danger and enlists the help of a surly stable boy to hunt down the killer. There's also an element of death itself, like Death is a character, and she forms an alliance with him. I'm really curious to see what comes of this. I do believe this is a romantic gothic infused world of wealth, desire, and betrayal. I don't think it's going to be a love triangle, but I'm curious to see if she maybe like falls in love with Death, if she falls in love with the stable boy. I really feel like for fall I love a good like gothic mystery with like a romance subplot. And I actually just started this last night because I Can't wait any longer. Okay, next we have The Library of the Dead by T.L. Huchu. I actually have no idea what this book is about, but I saw Reagan from Peruse Project talk about it last year. I think I picked this up at Book Outlet for like $6 or $7, and I do have the second book in the series as well. This just says Ropa dropped out of school to become a ghost talker, and she now speaks to Edinburgh's dead, carrying messages to those they left behind. The dead begin to whisper that someone's bewitching children, leaving them husks empty of joy in life. It's in Ropa City, so she feels bound to investigate, but what she learns will change her world. She'll dice with death, discovering an occult library and a taste for hidden magic, which just sounds perfect for spooky season. So I cannot wait to start this one. I think I might start this one next, honestly. I believe it's YA, so it should be pretty fast paced, and it's only... oh, it's just under 300 pages. So once again, another great weekend read if you're going to cozy up at home and not leave your house, which is personally what I like to do. Right, we're moving on to all the library books now. Let's start with The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I feel like everyone has read this book except for me, and I went to go pick it up in the spring, and a lot of you guys actually said this was way better suited for fall, so I decided to hold off on reading this. I also have Spells for Forgetting by her as well, so maybe if I have time I can pick that one up as well. But this follows June Farrow, and she basically is risking everything to end her family's century-old curse, solve her mother's disappearance, and find love in this mesmerizing novel. I believe this is a magical realism time travel mystery, which I'm so excited about. I love magical realism. It's one of my favorite kind of subgenres of fantasy. All the Goodreads reviews are basically saying this is either their favorite book of all time or it is the best magical realism book they've ever read. So that makes me really eager to start this. It takes place in a small town in North Carolina, and I feel like it could kind of give Stars Hollow energy. I have already started this. You guys know I'm a mood reader, so I have a few books on the go right now, and from the beginning I was like, yep, this is it's giving Gilmore Girls energy. It's giving Halloween Town, Hocus Pocus, small town vibes. I'm here for it. I'm really excited to see what the curse is and if she can solve her mother's disappearance. So I feel like a lot of people are going to say this is like one of their favorite books of all time. So I cannot wait. I really hope this one doesn't let me down. It's like one of those books I've put off reading for so long because I know it's going to be so good. Then we have Mother Thing, which I believe I got this recommendation from Lauren Louise, Big Book Lady, I think. This is by Ansley Hogarth, and this is a literary fiction, domestic, funny, comedy, horror novel. And this is about a woman who is basically trying to save her and her husband from her ghost of a mother-in-law. I heard a lot of reviews saying this was really fast-paced, good palate cleanser, so I think this will be good to read in between like horror books, suspenseful books when I kind of need a break from the gothic eerie stuff. Heard it's pretty comparable to Bunny or Eileen, which I haven't read Bunny, but I have read Eileen, and so really excited to read this one, and I feel like I haven't heard anyone talk about it. Didn't even know she was coming out with a new book, which is why, once again, I love watching TBR videos. I feel like I saw Reagan talk about this in her... was it a book? I think it was actually just like a reading vlog, and I read the Truly Devious series last year and loved it so much, so when I saw that Maureen Johnson had a new book out, I had to pick it up, and the name of it is Death at Morning House. Let me just talk about this cover. It is so eerie and I'm so intrigued by it. This book follows Marlowe, and Marlowe gets a job as a tour guide at Morning House, which is this like gothic 1920s mansion built on an island and was abandoned right after. It just says here, Morning House has a horrific secret that's been buried for decades, and now the person who brought her here is missing. All it takes is one clue to set off a catastrophic chain of events. One small detail, just like a spark, could take it all down if someone doesn't take Marlowe down first. So I'm assuming she's trying to kind of uncover this mystery and this secret. Hopefully this comes out the right way, but I love intertwined stories where there is some sort of mystery that takes place, like specifically in the 1920s. I think it has to do with my love of Nancy Drew, honestly, but I love a good intertwined story with like a 1920s mystery. Riley Sager is the only one left. Absolutely ate that up. I just feel like when it's done right, an intertwined mystery is chef's kiss, truly. I have seen a lot of reviews saying if you didn't like the characters in the Truly Devious series and you found them annoying, that the characters are more likable in this. So if you didn't love that series, maybe you'll want to give this one a go. And I honestly don't know which book I want to read first because they all sound so good. So yeah, this one is pretty high up there. And then we have Masters of Death by Olivia Blake, which I love the cover of this. This is so fun. First Goodreads review I ever saw on this said, "This is a book about vampires and demons and death and love and truth and lies, and this book is simply brilliant." And I was like, okay, sign me up. Where do I read this? I want to read this right now. I have read One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake, and I really enjoyed her writing. In this book, we follow Viola, who is a vampire, but she's also a real estate agent who is struggling. The house she's trying to sell is haunted, and if you can't tell me that is the perfect spooky season book, it is actually. It sounds like literally the perfect spooky season book. The ghost haunting the house was murdered, and I guess in order to move on, she needs to solve the murder, so there's like a mystery component to this. I'm hoping it's kind of funny, like a comedic horror book or comedic like thriller. It just literally sounds perfect for spooky season. I think this would be really good too if you don't like really scary books. So, and then the last book on my list is Lore of the Wilds by Annalise Brana. I have been wanting to read this for so long. I don't really know why I felt called to read this in the fall. Maybe it's just the cover of it. It's kind of like dark and eerie and spooky. Back of this made it seem perfect for spooky season. If you've read it, let me know. I'm gonna read it regardless, but if you've read this, I would love to know your thoughts on this. It says, an abandoned library with a deadly enchantment, a Fey Lord who will do anything to get in, a brave human woman, a collector of stories willing to risk it all for a taste of knowledge and power. Anything that has to do with a library in a fantasy world, I'm sold. Sign me up. That's why I loved the Book of Doors so much, I think. This follows our main character. Her name is Lore. It's like her village is a prison trapped in a forest. She's tried to escape over and over again and she's always failed. But she ends up making a deal with a Fey Lord. So I think it's going to kind of give like the Shadows Between Us vibes, or like Six Scorched Roses in a sense. Assuming because she makes this deal with the Fey Lord, she ends up getting out of her like village trapped in the forest, because it says Lore navigates the hostile world outside and is forced to rely on two Fey males to survive. When undeniable chemistry ignites, she's not just in danger of losing her life, but also her heart. So we got a little bit of a love triangle going on, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I can put it aside for a good kind of creepy romantic-y debut with an enchanted library, which is exactly what I'm gonna do for this book. So those are all of the books that I hope to read this fall, along with all the new releases coming out. And like I said, I'm a mood reader, so I really want to try to stick with this and the new releases. That's like all I'm giving myself to read this spooky season. It would be kind of fun maybe at the end of October to see how many books off my TBR I read. I've never been someone who can stick to TBRs, which is why I make them really big, so I have a good selection to pick from, once again, just as a mood reader. Let me know if you've read any of these, if they're 5-star reads, which one I should read, and also let me know what's on your TBR for fall. I would love to know. And the next video you guys will see is my prepping for fall vlog, which I'm so excited about. I think I'm gonna try and squeeze in just like a normal home vlog, but I'm trying to get in as many fall videos as I can before we leave on the 14th, just because then that next week will be travel content. I just don't want to miss out on all the fall fun. So that's why you guys are getting a ton of fall videos back to back, but I hope you guys don't mind. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye!